Welcome back, everybody, to the Eratsael Worldbuilding vlog. Today, we are going to be talking about the village of Oxgarde. Remember that if you like what you see, to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, to begin, what is Oxgarde? Well, it's Eratsael's version of Tatooine or the Shire. It's all about these humble beginnings and this very friendly, tight-knit community. But it is notable worldwide amongst the Viserys military. Its troops generally love visiting and traveling through Oxgarde due to the friendly people and the nice inns. In the center of the map, you'll see these two inns here, and they are what bring people to Oxgarde. It's very famous amongst the Viserys military for this purpose, and that's how they generate most of their income, as we will talk about in the future. So moving on, I would like to talk about the economy, culture, and history of this town. Beginning with the economy, the town largely relies on the success of the two inns for money, and everyone in the town kind of works together to provide. So for example, the fisherman of the river nearby will sell his fish to the two innkeepers, and they will sell that as dinner at the inn. And the leather worker will set up a stall nearby and sell his works, and just everyone's working together, and even the two innkeepers are working together. There's a friendly competition between the two, but for the most part, everybody gets along. The only reason the second tavern was even built was because there was so much traffic through the town that they needed to build a second one. Moving on, the culture. It's a tight-knit community where everyone knows everyone. If anyone's lived in a small town in their life, they know kind of what this means. They throw these sort of festival parties every once in a while. In real world, they're kind of the equivalent of big cookouts. Moving on, the history. Oxgarde was once given to the north, but it was taken back after the Queen's Rebellion. That's a historical moment in my world we'll get into in the future. And it's currently held by House Viserys in the Riverlands. As far as nearby locations go, there are some ancestral tombs in the hills, right? There is entrances in these hills. Oxgarde, the members of Oxgarde bury their dead in the tombs just outside of the town, and they're dug underneath those hills. As well as off in this forest and off-screen, there's a clay hut in the forest nearby with an Altesian. So Altesians in this world it's hard to explain without fully going into the religion, but they are people who have achieved spiritual immortality. At least that's believed to be the case. So when they die, their corpses rot and like normal, but their eyes never do. Their eyes will just stay sat in the skull forever, looking like they were alive still. And in this clay hut will be a man sitting in a chair with his whole body will be like mummified, but his eyes will be normal. And the reason I'm writing this in is because one of my players he's got the hermit background, so he gets to discover something cool, and this is what he's going to discover in one of the first sessions we play. But yeah, as far as the economy, culture, history, and nearby locations, that about does it. So moving on. So the last thing I want to talk about are the notable people of Oxgarde. These are going to be the NPCs that I populate this town with that kind of give the preliminary information of the world to the players in chunks that they can understand and not overwhelm them. And each character is going to kind of introduce an important factor or relevant topic of the world. So to begin, let's talk about Maester Soros. Maester Soros operates out of the church up here at the top of the map where my mouse is. It's the largest building in town, and he's going to serve as the intro to Solemnism. So Solemnism is the prominent religion of Western Eratsael, and it sort of tells the tale of this old king of Eratsael named Solomon who tried to unite the East and West. Solomon failed to do so and later went off north and died, but a lot of people believe that he's going to come back with another army and reunite the kingdoms of Eratsael, which is a thing a lot of Westerners would like. Maester Soros, so the title Maester is very much like being a pastor or a preacher in real life. Maester is a self-appointed title. There is an official title named Archmaester. There are 40 of those in the world, and they operate out of a location called the Temple of Solomon. But Maester Soros is a self-proclaimed maester, and he has lived in the town for his entire life and preaches the Gospel of Solomon. Next up is Olin Hurst. I've written these names, but I've never said them out loud, so it might take me a second. He's going to introduce the North and House Hearst in general. He is going to be, I think, a bastard son of Hearst nobleman, and perhaps a third cousin or nephew or something of the head Hearst guy. Hera Rykar is going to introduce Rykar, the Hold, and Aaron's Rebellion. This is a pretty pivotal moment in the history of Eratsael, and it happened about 40 years ago. So, Hera Rykar was originally a Viseri who married into the Rykar family. She married Aaron Rykar, who would later in life lead a rebellion against the Crown Viseri. He would lose this rebellion thanks to House Tus and their intervention, as well as the unveiling of the Warforged. But Hera Rykar was not beheaded or anything. Instead, she was sent to Oxgarde to live the rest of her life there. And, she's well liked amongst the town, but there are, as soldiers come through town, some of them do mock her. She tries to stay in the back when there's a lot of soldiers in town. Next up is going to be Captain Edmund Realmsguard, and he's going to introduce the Viseri, the Riverlands, and the Realmsguard. So the Riverlands and the Viseri are, that's where we are currently. That's where the village of Oxgarde is. It's in the Riverlands, which is run by Viseri, but the Realmsguard is something new. So Realmsguard, think kind of like Castle Black, but they are a group of elite knights, soldiers, warriors who have sworn off all titles, ranks, nobilities, lands, and they adopt the surname Realmsguard. And they, in their prime, they might travel around the world or around the western continent and protect cities and do quests for people and whatnot. They're adventurers, but the captain is retired, and so he has stayed in Oxgarde for the last 5 or 10 years. I want him to be sort of the Obi-Wan Kenobi, the wisdom that my players get early on. He will sort of ease them into the real world, the greater world, because he's traveled it, whereas all they've ever known for the context of their characters is the small village. Next up is going to be Helena Moore and Harwick Hull. They are going to be the innkeepers and the quote-unquote competitors, although they are really just friendly neighbors. The leatherworker is going to introduce the steps of the first men. He's going to need some place to get leather because there are no cows in town. There is cattle, grazing the fields nearby that he could hunt, but for the most part, he's going to find it in the steps of the first men where he's going to have to barter for it. And so that's going to introduce that. That's the nearest really big city to Oxgarde. And lastly, the brewer and the fisherman I haven't really thought too much about, but I will flesh them out over the weeks to come. And yeah, these are sort of... Their purpose as characters is to slowly sort of trickle information to my players to prepare them to go out to the greater world when they leave this village. I'm going to do a few sessions in this village before we travel off and do grand things. Last but not least, I do want to thank you guys for watching, and I would like to remind you that this is not all we will see of Oxgarde. On Friday, I will release another video kind of updating you on what I've written. I'm going to flesh out each of these concepts we talked about today, and then next week we are going to go further into it, as well as talk about some of the nearby locations and big cities. If you like what you see, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And thanks again for watching.